Morning, everybody. I was just talking with some folks, just hearing some positive feedback and insight about the icebreaker. That's a great way to start the morning. Thank y'all so much for being here. Let's just give a round of applause just for being here this morning. You guys are the MVPs. It's Friday. It's early morning. Love seeing you all here. So again, we just want to welcome you all here to Justified Anger, our Madison Plan Systems Change Symposium. And before we go any further, first of all, my name is Alexandra, or Allie G. Lewis, and I am the Director of Leadership Initiatives here, and also the assistant to Harry Hawkins. And so I just want to take a moment before we even move on to just give it up to our sponsors, especially TrueStage, for this beautiful space, for hosting us and supporting the work. And all of the staff and volunteers. And I also just want to take a moment to really honor the journey that brought us here. The long nights, the deep prayers, the hard conversations, the relentless hope that refused to let go. So we really want to celebrate that faith and every tear that was cried in silence, every bold step of faith that was taken to really shift systems and shake the status quo. This isn't just another event, but it's really a movement, and it's a moment to just pause. It's so easy to just keep doing the work and not take that moment to really just sit in what's been done. And so we want that to happen today, to really be able to sit in all of the amazing work that's been done and recognizing that we're not here just to see the changes that need to take place, but to really recognize the change that already has. And so we're so excited for today. We have a lot of great content coming forth, a lot of great speakers, and just a time to really reflect and be able to learn together and be able to have the energy and the momentum and hope to keep moving forward. And so thank you all again so much for being here. And so I just have a few housekeeping things before we move forward. You all be able to find bathrooms on every floor. That's very important. It's a long day. Need to know where the bathrooms are. So they're on every floor, and you'll usually see them like down one of those long hallways. There's also wellness rooms. So if you need time to just take a moment to yourself, there's also wellness rooms on each floor, which is really nice. And throughout the day, you'll also see amazing Nehemiah staff. They'll be rocking the black and white long sleeve shirts, and those are actually exclusive. So if you want some exclusive Nehemiah merch, you can get that today. It was made specifically just for this event. And so those are $30, and we'll be selling them just here. So if you want a shirt that nobody else, they should have been here. They should have came. So you'll be rocking some merch that nobody else can get. You can get that today. And again, those are $30. So you can get those on the first floor. Next, everyone should have received your orange bags, which I see all over the room. And in that bag, you'll see today's program, a notebook and pen to be able to take notes throughout the day. There's stickers and also a donation envelope. So if you feel compelled and just moved by the work and what's shared today to donate to this work to continue to move forward, thank you in advance for anything and any amount to be able to just continue to support this work. And now I would like to continue to move forward and just ask the TrueStage folks to dim the lights so we can just see a beautiful video as we continue this morning.
Madison is often ranked as one of the #1 places to live of all cities in the country. And the question that we always ask is, who is it the best place to live for?
In 2006, Wisconsin was named the worst place for Black people to live in the United States. That was the first time I heard that.
College town of Madison, Wisconsin is not the sort of place that leaps to mind when it comes to the discussion of racial disparities. But the gap between Black and white residents in Madison's Dane County are, according to recent reports, more extreme than most other jurisdictions in the nation.
The systems that we have in place have a history, and those histories advantaged some folks and disadvantaged other folks.
Incarceration rates is true, housing, employment.
Now there's a new effort to find ways to bridge that gap.
Well, I thought what became Justified Anger would become a moment when I was sitting with Alex in a coffee shop on Park Street, and he told me the story of some racial profiling that had occurred to him, and we decided for him to write a cover essay that we'd publish in the Capital Times that would become Justified Anger based on the headline.
We are ground zero for so many issues, particularly those concerning African American men. 650 people poured in. They filled this place. There was standing room only. We had 150 people.
In the original Justified Anger article that came out in 2013, one of the biggest calls to action was to say that in order to find solution to our vast racial disparities, that Black people had to be not just at the table, not just invited to the table, but there had to be room for that table to be built and set. So in other words, the rest of us should follow along and listen.
Our Madison plan did, with Alex inviting us all together, like, is there something we could do to make this a thing for Madison? So it's not just us changing things individually in all these different places, but us coming together to build up a space for African Americans in this community to have a voice, have a say, and thrive.
Justified Anger, in the preparation of our Madison Plan framework, really focused on, talking to all people in the city, but really asking those careful questions to Black community members, providing space where voices can be heard, and providing a forum where voices can be amplified and laid out in a way that the rest of the city can hear it.
I think that it is incredibly valuable to have spaces where we can have these kinds of conversations.
People don't know where to plug in, they don't know where to learn, they don't know how to educate themselves. And I love that this is not done in a vacuum. Thoughts, ideas are challenged, are shared, and I think that's where growth really happens. Within the discussion, within building relationships.
It's about creating a framework under which all sorts of people can feel comfortable and engaged and heard.
In the plan, we had 5 focus areas that were economic development, criminal justice, family and community wellness, education, and leadership and capacity development. We figured out very quickly that really leadership and capacity development was infused through all of these things. So in other words, training up leaders to be more present and visible in finding solutions and leading solutions, and then also developing capacities for small businesses, particularly for nonprofits, Black-led nonprofits that generally don't see as much funding as other nonprofits see.
It culminated sometime later at the Alliant Energy Center when we had an overflow crowd to present the Our Madison plan.
When the Our Madison plan was being created and written, and when it came out, it was one of the first times we had a framework that was created by the Black community, by Black leaders. We had hundreds of Black community members from all different demographics speaking into what they wanted to see to make lasting change for the future.
I remember that night at the Alliant Energy Center, I was stunned by the turnout, I was stunned by the electricity in the room. I was impressed by the collection of essentially every notable Black leader in the community, all on one stage at one time. So I thought it was a special evening, and one that's been kind of unlike any I've seen.
When we had the rollout for the Our Madison Plan framework and saw those 1,000 people all gathered to hear what this framework would be and asking about how they could participate and how they could be part of the plan. It was really moving and inspiring experience, and not something that I'd really ever seen happen before.
Catapulted, I think, into the community's consciousness.
Justified Anger and the Our Madison Plan was a really big deal for our city overall. Suddenly we have this conversation where Black leaders set the table, set the agenda, defined the problems, and laid out the solutions to the problems. And people from all different sectors, all different socioeconomic levels in the city were coming together to figure out how we can do better.
We can all have our own individual ideas, but when a community gets behind them, that's when you start to see things really start to grow and flourish. And that's what the Our Madison Plan has helped us do.
During the implementation of the Our Madison Plan framework, one of the things that we've really tried to do at Nehemiah is help primarily white community members who are aspiring to be allies in the fight for racial justice, to understand that they're not just doing this work to help someone else, but they're doing this work to help make their lives better and to help make their lives more full. And so one of the ways that we do that is through our history class, Black History for a New Day, where people learn about our United States history and how very systematically throughout time we have built up white people and white communities and oppressed and disadvantaged Black communities in particular.
I love being a part of Black History for a New Day because I really get to focus on the impact of generational trauma on Black women and girls.
My work with Dr. G and Black History for a New Day has also led to things that I thought that I'd never be doing. Engaging in public history on a level and an intensity that I had never really anticipated as an academic.
Every one of the white folks who's taken that course brings away something and then becomes a bit of an ambassador for a deeper understanding of Black culture and how Black people feel in Madison.
Dr. G and I were asked to do trainings for district court judges all over the state of Wisconsin, as well as their staff.
One of the biggest sources of hope is looking at what's happening on South Park Street in Madison. So, we've got Madison College that has a campus in South Madison.
Look at the Center for Black Excellence that's being built.
The Black Business Hub that the Urban League of Greater Madison has opened up.
But look at what's happening with Central Hispano, and look at what Will Green's doing over there on the east side of Madison. Stuff is happening all over the community.
These are things that the South Madison community and Black community members overall have been talking about developing the south side of Madison for decades. And just in the last 10 years, we've seen these huge capital projects start to develop and actually come to fruition. That gives me a lot of hope. In my opinion, one of the big catalytic events that led to, what's happening with Justified Anger and the Our Madison plan is looking at Kaleem Care and One City School.
One City, although, was an effort that, predated the Our Madison plan, the Our Madison plan gave it context for how we all work together.
And of course, with Kaleem's, really hard work and effort, it's now thriving and expanding, and that gives me a lot of hope.
Lisa Payton Care, what she's doing with the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness. There's a lot of things that have grown out of that are helping not just our community, but communities around the country.
This was an initiative that started with, basically a day where people would get together to learn about issues related to health and Black women. And now she's running a, $1 million foundation that's reaching people across the state, that's really addressing specific issues that have been ignored for a really long time about Black women, infant mortality, mental health and wellness, and then just general support and leadership for Black women in Madison and beyond.
And we were all very proud of what those meetings and that idea manifested.
If anyone in our community, in our society is suffering, every single one of us is suffering as well. We're not getting the most out of the money that we're spending. We're not getting the best result for the good ideas that come up. And we're not getting the best ideas because we're not hearing all the ideas.
All the work that has been done by everyone involved in the Our Madison plan, I believe, has made Madison ground central for the type of change that African Americans can drive with the support of the rest of the community. If everyone works together, people get behind us and our ideas.
One of the biggest ways that people can drive these issues forward and create change is by asking the people who make the decisions in our city, in our county, in our state, letting them know what's important to them. So the more people that talk about wanting to see our whole community succeed, the easier it will be to get our elected officials to listen and for us to have solutions implemented that are really going to make change.
If you really want to know if we are there yet, we must band together and boldly declare it. Though things may be grim, they're not in ill repair yet. Let's extend our hands to families ensnared yet. These are all our sons and daughters. Of course we're not there yet.
We're looking back over the past 10 years to really understand the impact of our systems change work that has been done across the greater Madison area. We're doing that so we can remove the shadow of uncertainty and chart a course forward so we know how to act and how to be connected. Because not only are we empowering the Black community with the work and the work that others have done, but we're redesigning systems and really helping people to reimagine what Madison could be and what our world could be if we all work together for the benefit of all.
Good morning, everyone. Can y'all see me over this podium? You want to know why you can see me? It's because I'm standing on my tippy toes. My name is Angela Russell, and I am the Chief Diversity Officer here at TrueStage. Yeah. Were you snapping because of the word diversity or snapping because of TrueStage? A little bit of both. All right, and I'm also the president of the TrueStage Foundation. Before I get into introducing the 10th anniversary, I want to share a couple of highlights about the building we're in here today, the TrueStage Lighthouse. The Lighthouse is our newest building on campus, and it opened up at the perfect time during the pandemic, so no one was here. But one of the things I love about this building is that diversity of background, experiences, and needs were integrated into the design of the building from the start. So as you are here today and you look around, I encourage you to explore a bit. All of the art that you see on our walls is done by Indigenous artists. Each one has a QR code by it where you can learn more about the artists and learn more about the work. The bathrooms were designed with accessibility in mind. There are rooms for nursing moms and rooms for prayer and reflection, all of that. And I'm really proud that diversity was literally integrated into the spaces of the Lighthouse from the start. And when I think about, oh yeah, you can clap for that if you want. And when I think about the role that Justified Anger plays for the next generation, it's really forcing the city and our communities to design communities with diversity from the start. And I think that's the impact that Justified Anger can have. So it is my pleasure to welcome you to this incredible occasion, our Madison Plan 10th Anniversary System Change Symposium. Who's excited to be here? That's great. It is a celebration and a call to continued action. Today, we gather to reflect on a decade of effort, which it doesn't seem like it's been a decade, courage, and leadership, born from the brilliance and persistence of Madison's Black community. Who loves the Madison Black community? If you weren't clapping for that, I was silently judging you. And there is no one who embodies that journey more than the man we are about to hear from, Reverend Dr. Alex G. Dr. G is a Madison native whose vision, voice, and action have shaped our city for the better. For nearly 4 decades, he has served as the senior pastor of the Fountain of Life Church. Anyone here representing Fountain of Life? Great, great, great. And over 30 years ago, he founded the Nehemiah Center for Urban Leadership Development, a cornerstone of Black-led transformation in Dane County. He is also the creator and host of the award-winning podcast, Black Like Me, which just recorded its 200th episode. It's a lot of conversations. And the podcast is an honest and unfiltered look at race and identity in America that has reached listeners across the world. Later this year, Dr. G will see another long-held dream realized, not a dream deferred, but a dream realized, with the opening of the Center for Black Excellence and Culture. This space will be devoted to celebrating Black creativity, leadership, innovation, and intergenerational learning. It will be the first of its kind in the Madison region. His work has always centered on empowering Black-designed solutions, promoting cultural innovation, and developing leaders who can change systems, starting with our own communities. His influence has extended far beyond Madison, with invitations to speak, teach, and consult across the US, Canada, South Africa, Cambodia, South Korea, and India. Dr. G holds degrees from UW-Madison and Bakke Graduate University and was recently honored an honorary doctorate doctorate in humane letters from UW-Madison, where he also now serves as an adjunct faculty member in the Department of African American Studies. 10 years ago today, Dr. G and a coalition of Black leaders released our Madison Plan, a bold, unapologetic, and audacious call to address the racial disparities that have long haunted our city. That plan gave us shape to a vision of equity, justice, and belonging. Today's symposium is a testament to that work and to the thousands of people who have contributed to it. Please join me in welcoming the founder of Justified Anger and a true force for transformation in our community, Reverend Dr. Alex G.
Oh, you all are sweet. You are sweet. Oh, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for that beautiful welcome. And Ms. Russell, thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction. When I stood behind the stage and I heard her say her title, I said, thank God for True Stage, that we can still put that in someone's title. So I heard her ask what you're applauding. It is so great to be here. You all look great. This room feels so energized, and it's an honor to be here after 10 years to talk about the efforts and the work of my team and of our community and the work that we've done with our allies. And they said it wouldn't last. I want to just thank the folks who have made this work and make this possible. Yes, please help me to do this. True Stage has been a true friend and great supporter, so I want to thank its CEO, Terrence Williams, and Angela Russell, and their amazing staff who made this seamless and very enjoyable. Cap Times as our platinum sponsor. We appreciate them, who partnered with me right from the beginning when I had this thought about writing about my experience. We appreciate them as well. Our gold sponsors, Park Bank and Madison Gas and Electric. Silver sponsors, American Family Insurance. Bronze sponsors, Madison Top, Foxhole Construction, Madison Community Foundation, Christ Presbyterian Church, and our event planner, Pranisha Clifton. Can we just give all of our sponsors and supporters a hand? Nehemiah and Justified Anger staff members, would you please stand just so that I can get help acknowledging you and your support and your wonderful work in our community. Special kudos to our communications team with Eli in thinking about this, Karen and pushing me to do this, and also Andrea Dearlove, who's really been a mastermind behind all of this. I get to serve with an incredible team. It's hard to believe that this was 10 years ago, that we stood together at the Expo Center and rolled out a plan. We thought life was already crazy when we called for a town hall meeting in February, and 600 people showed up in frigid cold to pack out Fountain of Life Church to hear about what this guy who wrote this piece had to say about things. I've said this ad nauseum, but I often, over the past 10 years, have felt like Tom Cruise's character, Jerry Maguire, when he said, "It's just a memo." It was just a memo, just a thought, you guys. I just sat down, had coffee with someone, and then had a black moment, and then woke up and they said, all right, I want you to give you 3,000 words. I'm going to let it be on the front cover. I'm going to give you some art. We're going to put this out there. And then the rest is just sort of comes behind us. But the joy of people coming back again to the Expo Center to hear what we had worked on and to understand our ideas, because in Madison, you better not have a good idea unless you want to carry it out. And so I want to talk to you about the journey as well. And I'm sorry, there's just one more group that I want to appreciate before I get into my remarks. To the folks over the past 10 years who entered into our space as would-be non-Black allies, and you stayed the course and you challenged the systems and you kept your promises, we would not be here without you. Allies, I appreciate you, and I want to applaud you for your support of us. You know, if asked what I would do all over again, I would not have taken the bait to do something. Because I'm a visionary and a thought leader, and I'm not necessarily one who wants to implement, so I think I wouldn't have taken that bait to start creating some stuff. I would have just said, nope, I'm just a consultant to the city. I just see a bunch of bad shit that I want to get right. Let me just talk about it, and don't give me the responsibility, the culpability, the onus of fixing it. But I took the bait. I was young, impressionable. I liked the camera. I kind of liked the mic. But looking back, I realized that it was an audacious move and an audacious push. And along the ways, I got pushback to not trust allies, particularly non-Black allies. And I also had pushback, and I see my friend Paul Fanlon here. I got pushback, don't trust the media and do not work with Cap Times. But he gave me his word that this is not just a fleeting moment. I will follow this movement. I will follow the progress of the Black community, and has helped to tell the story and bring what we're doing to you. And so our allies who stepped into space somewhat reluctantly, not sure if it'd be too much or too little, I just need you to know that we bark a lot, we push a lot, we're like a coach, but we see you and we appreciate the things that you've done and the promises that you have kept. My staff wanted to do this event to come to the community and say, we told you so. But I am much too respectful to say something like that today. Much too mature to follow that bait. But that's what my staff wanted to say. But we think in many ways we've exceeded the expectations. We've built allies. 5,000 of you went through our U.S. Black History course. Yes. Court observers. Hundreds of reports and observations you've documented of what's happening in Dane County courts. I don't think there's any greater purveyor of that information in our community other than the court system themselves, as what our court observers have held. Change makers, Black leadership development, the Center for Black Excellence in Culture, these things all grew out of this work. The role of a leader, said by some, is that we define reality. We don't create it, we just define it. We speak about what's going on so that people can see what it is they want to do with this. And we knew that this was going to be a very arduous task because as a young guy who grew up in Madison, who was taught to fish by his mom, we loved all the lakes and fished all the lakes, streams, rivers in this area for panfish. But if any of you fished, you know that when you get a line tangled, short of just cutting that line, you got to untangle it in the same direction it was tangled. People wanted to untangle systemic racism, but they didn't want to untangle the line. Let's just cut the line and then start all over again. But if you cut the line, you lose a perfectly good bobber and some great weights and some nice expensive hooks. So you would sit there trying to undo what's been done. And that's the piece that made this very tricky, that we wanted to undo that. And so in starting my remarks, I want to just take us back to a piece that I wrote as the preamble to Our Madison plan, because we knew we needed something that gathered the voice of the Black community to state or restate what they said, what we said would be indication that we have really moved the needle. And I only just want to read the first few stanzas because it's eerily relevant today, 10 years later. There was a time when being audacious an African American would cost one their life. There was a time when being audacious an African American would cost one their business or livelihood. There was a time when being audacious and African American could cost one their reputation and acceptance by those in power. There comes a time when African Americans who currently face desperate times must seek desperate means, meaning we must muster the audacity to speak our minds, take our places in our communities as leaders, stand for justice in the face of injustice, and fend for our children, our families, our culture, and our future. We were audacious enough to believe that we were stronger than our chains, smarter than our captors, greater than our masters, and more humane than those who deemed us only 3/5 of a human being. We were audacious enough to fight in American wars for freedom, hoping our patriotism would be recognized as well as our equality. We were audacious enough to work in sharecroppers' fields and hope for our own 40 acres and a mule, and audacious enough to maintain sanity in the midst of it all. We were audacious enough to learn to read when it was illegal, and audacious enough to attempt to vote when it was unsafe. And on the heels of the Emancipation Proclamation, we were audacious enough to successfully run for political office in this country, even in southern states where white citizens openly practice violence and discrimination against us as a part of their daily ritual. In spite of this, 16 of us were audacious enough to be elected to the U.S. Congress before the turn of the 20th century during Reconstruction. We were audacious enough to create churches and denominations when God's people told us that we weren't welcomed. We were audacious enough to work in factories, create our own medical clinics, funeral homes, clothing and grocery stores, repair business, barbershops and beauty shops, insurance companies, banks, and restaurants. And in doing so, we built homes, created, supported, and sent our children to school, and paved the way for the establishment of an African-American middle class. The civil rights movement, though a call to interdependence, mutual acceptance, and fairness of all, was never meant to be an abdication of our African-American heritage, pride, strength, or audacity. The justified anger, our Madison plan, endeavored to take civil rights to another step, and we are challenging African Americans to reclaim our audacity. Our community must be stronger whether or not things change, although we hope and pray they do. Doesn't that sound like that was just written today in terms of what we need to stand for and stand in? You know, there's so much that is required to untangle if we're going to have a clean fishing line. Just this week, someone asked me my name, my last name, how to spell it, and what its origin was. And I told them that it was how to spell it, that it was Welsh in origin. And I said, I don't have enough time to explain to you. It's my last name's critique of American history. And I knew that she didn't want to know that. She just wanted to do background on me to see if I belonged where I was that particular day. But it reminded me of how insidious and how ingrained systemic racism is in our reality. I've said this before. Think about every black person you know. And for those who don't have a West African last name, have an anglicized or white last name that either derives from rape and ownership or being chattel property. My family worked on the G plantation, and my great-great-great-grandmother, Venus, was raped and owned by Reuben G. And her child, their child, Henderson G, is my grandfather's grandfather. People want to move ahead, but they don't want to look back to understand we've got to untangle that. The white G's got a 150-year head start on me. We were both homeowners. We met each other. We become friends. We're actually talking about family reunions. But I make it very clear that we can move ahead, but we need to make sure that it's clearly understood. Though we stand on the same platform, it is not because there is no systemic reality. It is not because you didn't have 150 years ahead of us. It's just that my mama's and them taught me how to run fast, how to catch up, and how to be who I'm supposed to be and where I'm supposed to be and act like how I'm supposed to. And we need to understand this to move forward. I'm a kid of the 60s. And so, do any of you remember the Kick the Habit campaign? You have to just sort of think about it. It was a campaign to stop what? And you know why that campaign existed? Because it was not widely believed that there was a connection between cigarette smoking and lung cancer. We look back at all of our non-smoking spaces and we just think, well, that's just gross to smoke. Like, who would do that? What? But back in the days, people were like, no, this doesn't cause lung cancer. They're just saying that because they don't want us to buy it. There was this disconnect. And so in 2013, when I wrote Justified Anger, in my mind, in the minds of most people, there was not a connection between the stress of racism and the premature death of black people. I won't get into that fully because Dr. Karen Reese is going to talk about that in our theory of community transformation and social determinants of health. But just like the oblivion towards the connection between smoking and lung cancer, people didn't think that there was a connection between systemic racism and the health on black folks. And so when people come to Madison and they're black and they leave, we asked when I worked on campus, well, we can't compete with Michigan salaries. And then when they work for your company, say, well, we can't compete with, pick your conglomerate. And we just assume that people leave for more money. People actually leave, black people actually leave for more years on our lives. Because in our minds, y'all don't pay us enough to die prematurely to work in Madison. And so we stay as long as we can. We try to change the system, but it's not because racism is mean and mean people suck. It's because black and brown people die more quickly than our white counterparts when the connection isn't made. And so we needed to take steps to identify and develop black leaders. We had to identify and educate non-black allies, and we had to deploy them both in the work of dismantling or untangling racist and unjust systems. That's what the Our Madison plan was about. It wasn't just like we need more diversity training, we need more sensitivity training. It's like, no, we need to dismantle stuff and build it again. I give them this example. I live in Fitchburg, right off of Fish Hatchery Road. Many people who don't know that there's a real fish hatchery on Fish Hatchery Road, hence the name. But if you take those fish eggs that are hatched and engineered and put them in the phosphorus and algae-ridden lakes of Madison, they become sick. It's not because they're bad fish. It's not because they're evil. It's because the waters, the systems are contaminated. When we talk to our white colleagues about racism, it wasn't because you burned crosses, you owned slaves, or we thought you were mean. We were trying to tell you that you had algae and phosphorus in your gills. And to no act of your own, you have been affected by racist systems. But because you swim in it, you don't recognize it. So when we talk about that racism, it's not because we're trying to say you're mean, nah, 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 nah. We're trying to bring you to cleaner waters because you can't help us if you don't realize that you need help too. So the movement was to help us all, and not watching what nice, smart little black people can do in our community. We actually had the audacity to think that we had the compassion and the ingenuity to help you if you would humble yourselves to accept that from someone like us. This largely required an understanding and buy-in of what our, at the time were called, would-be white allies who understood the benefit. They had to understand the benefit of racist systems in American society to themselves and society if they were going to be a part of the problem. That's why when I wrote Justified Anger, thousands of people emailed me. Those of you who know that I'm slow to email, I stopped reading email December of 2013. Because I was either getting emails saying, how can I help black people? Or take your black butt to Africa if you don't like how we do it here. And everything in between. I know you don't think people in Madison send emails like that. They do. And we knew and understand that we are creating systems in space that will benefit us all. Because it's not good for any of us. People have always asked me, well, how did the black community respond to your voice and your leadership? Did they feel thwarted? Did they shrink in your shadow? Did they feel insecure? And then there were folks that took it upon themselves to interpret black thought for black people, to white people. And so it's very, very interesting. But if I can just be real for a moment, because in many ways, This speech is my swan song. The real question was, how did white leadership respond to my voice and respond to my leadership? When I wrote Justified Anger, well, what can I do personally to address the spiritual disparities that you've highlighted? Are you suggesting that all white people in Madison are complicit in systemic racism? Well, how can we have an honest conversation about race without feeling accused or blamed? Or why focus on race when poverty is really what affects us from all backgrounds, Alex? Isn't Madison already progressive and inclusive compared to other cities? Well, what specific policies do you believe are perpetuating inequalities here? How do you balance acknowledging past injustices and moving forward together, Alex? And are there examples of successful community initiatives, does this sound familiar, that we can learn from? How can white allies support without overstepping or speaking over black voices? And what role does education play in changing the perceptions? And how can we measure progress? And how do we address the discomfort that often arises when we talk about race? Because people didn't really want to talk about it. And then some of the shot callers and folks who could either support our work or not support our work asked, well, how can we support this movement without losing control of the narrative or funding strategy? Do we need to re-examine our leadership structure of who holds decision-making power? Are our diversity efforts enough, or are they just cosmetic? Will our current programs withstand scrutiny if Dr. G's critique becomes the new standard? How do we partner without appearing to co-opt or dilute Black-led efforts? Are we ready to fund solutions that we didn't design or fully understand? And then if we go to some of the real folks who are power brokers, asked, aren't we already doing more than most cities? How can we address these issues without causing further division? You're causing trouble, Alex. What about the progress we've made? Shouldn't that be acknowledged too? How can we help without being made to feel guilty or like the enemy? And are you sure that this isn't just a perception problem rather than a structural one? How do we begin to move together to do these things? What we decided to do with Justified Anger and through the creation of the Our Madison plan is to address those questions. Because whether people ask them or not, they are very real. But I have to say that many of these questions are still asked. Many people hold to them. But what I want to focus on would be the myriad of people who asked those questions and honestly waited for the answers. You changed your board policies. You changed and improved your hiring policies. You thought differently about how funding works. You came to us and asked, what do you need, rather than saying, this is what we budgeted, come and apply for it. And many of you, particularly funders, said to folks like Karen and Ruben, Kaleem, and myself, that we don't want to just help you build your buildings. We want to help to support your programs. We need to be a long-term partner because this is our community and this is our city. That's now how things were functioning 10 or 15 years ago, but the attitudes have changed. People have leaned in, and I see successes, an indication that we're moving in the right direction that not only I didn't expect, I had to challenge myself to take a double look and not be so cynical, to realize that in the midst of all that's happening in the world, there are things that we still hold to in this community. There are things that we are still supporting in this city. And this makes me very, very proud to be a son of this city. And I just want to applaud my city and my community. That is not a small thing, but we continue to lean in. All you got to do is drive down Park Street. All you got to do is go up and down the Beltline. And you see things that wouldn't have happened, couldn't have happened 15 or 20 years ago. But we have the audacity to speak and to share and to stand and to stay in order to build something that's better for all of us. And there were days and nights that I never thought that I'd be one that would stand on the stage and say, I'm proud to be a son of this community. But the way this community has not only responded to the vision of Justified Anger and Nehemiah and the Black Hub and the Center for Black Excellence and Culture and Central Spano and others, makes me realize that we have something that's very precious. We can't let up off the gas. We need to understand that what it took to get here It's going to take this and more to continue to succeed. And so I just need you to know we still need you, because the Our Madison plan is designed, is outlined, is beautifully formatted, but it's not finished yet. You don't change in 10 years what it's taken several generations to jack up. And so we have to roll up our sleeves and really get busy, because the fact that we're still in the room is proof that we still have work to do, but even more importantly, it's proof that we can do this work together. I thought, yes, thank you. In closing, I want to say that we chose the name, the Our Madison Plan, because I'm a product of then Chancellor Donna Shalala's Madison Plan. I was hired through dollars that her Madison Plan created, established with the state legislature, so that we could have the resources to really focus on the recruitment of underrepresented students. But Chancellor Shalala is not from Madison. She's not from Wisconsin. But she went in a room with somebody and wrote a Madison plan that didn't really include dialogue with Madison. She didn't talk to me. She didn't talk to black pastors. She didn't talk to nonprofit leaders. She didn't talk to black alumni. Somewhere she went in and she wrote the plan. Now, it was gutsy. It pushed things. It scared the campus. She changed things and brought in diversity in the law school and the school of, it's called human ecology now, but it used to be family resources and consumer sciences. In the school of education, she was changing things up. But in my opinion, it wasn't fully a Madison plan because Madison didn't speak into it. We named our plan the Our Madison Plan because we talked with over 700 black folks. We asked, what do you need? What do we want? And what shows us that the needle has moved? That in itself should make you reread it after 10 years. That in itself should help you to understand that if you're wondering, what do black people think? Not only did we hold the meetings, we moved beyond oral tradition. We actually documented these meetings in these settings. And it's what made the Madison Plan what it is. And later today, my colleagues will come and just elaborate on its impact a little bit more. But in closing, it would not be like me to not bring an aspect of the Audacity poem into the 2020s. And so I've added something that's called the next chapter, but it's not the final chapter because we still have work to do. And I say this to remind you that we're going to get through these tumultuous times. When I was on vacation, my family was on a cruise during 9/11. And the captain of that ship exhibited one of the greatest examples of leadership I'd ever experienced. Because when the towers came down, we watched it in real time. We were in international waters, and we did what we do. We did what Americans did. We started looking for the culprits. Listen, black and white, all Americans started looking down the halls and realized who was serving us and who was folding towels and who was feeding us. And the captain came on and said, this is your captain, folks. We know that we are in some terrible times. We know that you've seen on television that we've lost the Twin Towers, but I want you to know we're going to get through this. We are not going to be divided on this ship. We are not going to point fingers on this ship. We are going to get along. We're going to work through this together. If you have any questions, let me know. But we are going to get through this. This is your captain speaking. And not only that, he bought everybody's alcohol and massages. Leadership costs. When we got back, there was nothing on our bill. There was nothing on our bill. I want to tell you folks, we're going to get through this. We can keep focusing on what's happening around the world in Washington, but we're going to get through this because the same way that the Emancipation Proclamation did not change the hearts of racist people, the erasure of DEI literature is not going to change the hearts of well, good-natured people. We change laws, but not hearts. Justified Anger's Madison, Our Madison Plan, its leadership development strategies, and its Black History for a New Day, we changed hearts. So change whatever lies and whatever history you need to. Small-minded people, something has happened in our heart, and you are not going to draw this out of us any more than we have drawn racism out of people's hearts who don't want to be changed. We have been so impacted by these truths and this audacity. They can change what we want. We will see people differently. We will love differently. We will change our systems. And just because they change rules, they weren't smart enough to change people. We have been changed, and we're not looking back. And that's how I know we're going to get through this next 3 years, 2 months, 19 days, and 16 hours. Apologies to anyone who's offended, but this is my stage today. Audacity 2025 as I wrap up. We were audacious before equal opportunities. We were audacious before quotas. We were audacious before affirmative action. We were audacious and brilliant before DEI. We were stolen and brought here from manual labor in order to feed American capitalism. To the chagrin of our captors, they discovered that we might have just had what it took to take over and run America. So then when it became illegal to capture our bodies and transport them across the Atlantic, they attempted to capture our minds, our spirits, our swag, our confidence, our sense of community, our intellect, our ingenuity, and our goodness, all of which still prevailed while sitting in physical chains. And they did so in order to abort our audacity. Why? Because audacity is contagious. It's threatening to any status quo. Audacity motivates, audacity innovates, and audacity elevates, recreates, regenerates, activates, liberates, and elevates. That is why the small-minded hates our audacity. Watch audacious people, folks. Non-black folks, watch audacious people. Audacious black people. We have not jumped out of any window because of the current tyrannous political reality. We have not jumped out of windows because we've been through worse with less. And when we're in rooms by ourselves, we watch the foolishness and we say, ha, ha, ha. Take away what you think are handouts and we'll show you how smart we are, how strong we are, how fast we are, how thorough we are. So we're not jumping out of windows. And we're also no longer believing for 40 acres and a mule that they'll be handed to us. We're about to remind the naysayers that even with the head start that they've been given, that our white counterparts have been given, we will audaciously thrive and flourish, even in Madison and Dane County, Wisconsin. If the architects of inequality needed to define us as 3/5 of a person, what does that say about the 2/5 that they were missing in their own humanity? Perhaps it was never about our lack, but their void. What fraction of their being required 3/5 of ours just to feel whole in order to rule? Now that's audacious. We desire more than a mule, we want millions. We require more than 40 acres. We want credit and acknowledgement for all the fortunes we've afforded America, credit and acknowledgement for all the wars that we've helped America fight and win, and credit and acknowledgement for the way we shape what is now known around the world as American culture. We are still audacious enough to believe and demand a stronger Madison for all. And we're still audacious and perhaps petty enough to say to our city, we knew what to do, so we did something. We told you so. That's audacity. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you all so much.